Greetings, Guzzlers. Just starting with a nice refreshing gin and tonic. George Bishop, and not my own gin. Still got some of that left, obviously, but we have a nice refreshing George Bishop. Because here we are, British summertime, has stopped raining at the minute, and we're going to make another salad. And we're going to make, or recreate, a version, because there are several versions of this, but we're going to recreate a version of the green goddess salad. So, let's get started. So this green goddess salad is actually called, well, it's the dressing actually that is the green goddess bit, but we'll come into that. But at the end, we're going to add a few little accompaniments. We're going to have some more feta cheese, but also going to have some toasted pumpkin seeds. So what I've got there is about 15 grams of pumpkin seeds, and we're just going to toast them on there. Okay, and then we'll just put them to one side, and they'll go on at the end when we dish our salad up. We're also going to want some radishes. I've got 6 radishes. Pardon me. We'll be slicing them up thinly, again to go on the final salad. Like I say, I've got some feta there. I want about 50 grams of feta cheese. And really, that's what's going on the dressed salad. So, this green goddess salad. Green goddess salad, or the green goddess dressing, was basically created in the Palace Hotel of San Francisco in 1923 to sort of honour, if you like, the film that came out in 1923 called The Green Goddess. So, don't think you're going to get away with a simple salad. You're going to find out about the green goddess. So we're going to just let them toast, and then, like I say, I'm going to put them in there, and then we'll start preparing our dressing. Now the dressing requires a mayonnaise, so we're going to make some mayonnaise first, and then we're going to use half of that mayonnaise along with some other ingredients to make the final dressing. So, oh, this gin's going down too well. So while they're doing that, I'm going to first off take 1 egg, and I'm just going to separate. We just want 1 yolk to make the mayonnaise. Now, like I said, this is actually going to make twice as much mayonnaise as we need, but it's going to get a little fiddly trying to do it with half a yolk. So we're making it with 1 egg yolk. And then you're going to want some olive oil. We've got 240 mils of olive oil. You want 2 teaspoons, or about 10 mils I think it is, of champagne vinegar. Wait, let's start to get a bit hot. And you're going to need about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to use that to make our mayonnaise. I'm going to put that egg yolk into a slightly bigger bowl, because we're going to use this to whisk up and create our mayonnaise. Now, like I said, you're going to want 240 mils of olive oil. Okay, but we start by just putting in a little bit of the oil, and we start whisking. This bowl's probably a little bit on the big side, but unfortunately the next size down, it wasn't going to give me a lot of room to manoeuvre. So, you want to incorporate that first lot of oil quite slowly, and then we can start adding in a little bit more at a time. you need to make sure that the oil gets combined, so you've got to be whisking all the time. So there's my mayonnaise as such. I'm just going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and like I say, 2 teaspoons of champagne vinegar. I'm just going to mix that in, and then I want 2 teaspoons of water, so again about 10 mils, and again I'm just going to incorporate that into that mayonnaise. Hasn't thickened as much as perhaps it should, but ultimately it's splashing bloody everywhere now and all that. But ultimately it's all going in with the rest of the other ingredients in that blender, or half of it is anyway. So our Green Goddess film, like I say, that was the way it got its name, because the sauce, or the dressing rather, has a greenish tint. The film was called Green Goddess, and it starred I think George Arliss, who in his day was, you know, quite somebody, and the director of the hotel wanted to, like I say, sort of in a way honour him and his latest movie. Now, the version we're making, so really the first version only really had 2 herbs in it, but it has had things like Worcestershire sauce in it, anchovies, parsley, tarragon, spring onions, chives, vinegar, and it's actually believed it possibly originated, the sort of the basic dressing originated back in France, and then it was served then not with a salad but with green eel. This was effectively a sauce au vert by one of the Louis, I can't remember which one it was. So I'll also top the gin up. So we're just going to put that to one side for now. Okay, I'll have to find some side to put it on, because I'm all a bit messed up here at the minute. What I've got in my colander here is some freshly washed little gems. Trimmed them, taken the outer leaves off and given them a bit of a wash, and I'm just letting them drain there. Traditionally it would have been romaine lettuce, but the little gems are perhaps a little bit better at holding the dressing. So let me try and organise some room here, and also get rid of this annoying fly that's suddenly appeared. Right, so I've got 1 clove of garlic, and I'm just going to peel that, and then we're going to roughly chop that and shove that in that blender. Now I said to you how there are various variations on this salad, okay, including one that added Worcestershire sauce. I think I've already said some have anchovies in it, and in fact it's even been done with avocado and basil, but this one is a little bit closer to the original. Pardon me. In the 70s, early 70s, the salad dressing maker, or whatever you want to call them, 7 C's, produced a sort of limited version, well I say limited version, I mean limited quantities of a version of the Green Goddess dressing. 7 C's don't exist anymore, they're now part of Kraft Foods. I don't know if you can still get the Green Goddess dressing, but anyway, so that garlic's gone in there, and then I've got 60 mils of olive oil, and then that's going to go. I've got 120 mils of that mayonnaise, in that's going to go. There's my other bits. And then we've got sour cream or crème fraîche. We've got there, what was it, 75 mils as such of that. Just splashed it all up my shirt. Making a messy bug on myself. Wife telling me off. We've got a clean shirt and dirty. Even though she probably saying to me, wait a minute. Whoops. In there. Right, so that's them ingredients. Let's get that out of the way before I knock it over. Then we want some red, actually I'll put that back there for a second. Some red wine vinegar. We want 1 tablespoon of that. In that goes. Generous pinch of salt, and then we're going to add some lemon juice and some herbs. And the herbs I've got, I should have had tarragon, but I can't seem to buy tarragon at the minute. So I've got, so the other ones we were going to use anyway. So all we're doing is just missing tarragon, flat leaf parsley, dill, and chives. And then, like I say, we want about 1 or possibly more tablespoons of lemon juice to put in there. So I'm going to move that where it don't get knocked over. Like I said, we want our herbs, and we want about 2 tablespoons roughly chopped herbs. So that's my chives, and they're going to go. My dill. My parsley, I've taken off some of the thicker stalks that were there, but I've not bothered too much about the rest of it. And you can see now why this thing ends up with its greenish tinge, because all the green stuff is going in it. So this, like I say, originated San Francisco, so it was sort of primarily sort of west coast, but in the meantime it's actually more migrated south, and so now it's quite often more commonly associated with the southern states of America, where it's often used as an accompaniment to fried oysters and shellfish generally, rather than like the original, which was a salad dressing. So really, oh no, I've got to do my lemon juice, haven't I? I was just about to say, really, that's it. So I'm adding about, I say, a tablespoon or so of lemon. I'm going to do about half a lemon. You can do more if you want. Depends how much lemon you want in it. So I'm just trying to stop them pips getting in there, because this ain't great expectations. Right, so we're now ready. And look, we've got half a lemon left for for the gin. So now we're just going to put that into the blender. Now if we plug it in, and we just want to blend it all. Your green dressing, very reminiscent of what one of my colleagues at work drinks, because actually I always take the mick out when I say to her, "You drinking my pond water again?" Because even though I cleaned all my pond out, it's gone back like that again. Now the dressing's done. We've toasted our pumpkin seeds, we've got to prepare our radishes, and then I've got my cheeses here, and I've got my lettuce washed. So let's get on with the radishes. So all we're going to do is just top and tail the radishes, and then we're going to finely slice them. They're a bit small to use on my mandolin, so I'm going to do it with a knife. Okay, but if you wanted to do it any other way, do it any bloody way you like. So before I tell you about the Green Goddess film, because I know you really want to know about it, The Green Goddess actually refers to a fire engine, or I think it was rather than a fire engine, it was known as a pump. But I remember back in my dim and distant past, when in England this is, the firemen went on strike for more money. Because unfortunately we've had a succession of governments, he says getting his political hat on, that shaft all the bloody sort of essential services, because most of them do it out of sort of loyalty and a vocation, and so it's like fuck them, then let's just not pay them fuck all. So anyway, political rant sort of over. The firemen went on strike, and as a result the army was drafted in to help out in the event of any fires breaking out, and they used these Bedford made fire pumps, if you like, known as Green Goddesses because of the colour of them, a bit like their dressing, see. They weren't your typical fire engine like you see these days, you know, your red fire engine. Are they red in America? I think they are. Now you got me thinking of Backdraft. I like Backdraft, one of my favourite films. But anyway, that aside, so that is another name for the Green Goddess. But what about this film? So like I said to you, well actually it was a film based on a silent film, I think it was, based on a play, based on a book. And George Arliss, one of the stars, actually I believe when he started in the film he was recreating the role he played in the stage play of it, or unless it was the earlier film, I don't know. But it starred other stars of their day, so there you go, there's that done. So I've got some Parmesan and we're going to grate that, and then you're going to want about 50 grams of feta, okay? Oh dear me, there's 200 in here. Might have to snack on some. Can't possibly keep it, can we? It go off. Because if you watched an earlier episode, you'll know that feta, really, if you're going to try and store it, once you've opened it out, you should store it in brine. You can do it in oil if you wanted. I put some more lemon in here, and now I can't get me bloody gob round it. So I'm not going to open that on there because I need to drain that. So let's find out a little bit more about that film then. I've got about 75 grams of feta, and all I'm going to do, it does suggest you can grate it, but I'm not quite sure how you go about grating feta because it's just very crumbly. So I'm just crumbling this in there. Now I was saying to you about old George Arliss and how he sort of was the main star. He actually went on and was nominated for Best Actor. I don't think he won it for this particular film. Oh sorry, I'll put that little bit in there as well. So I like me feta. So he went on to be nominated for Best Actor, and there was a actress in there, and actually it turned out to be her final film role, Alice Joyce. She was the sort of the main love interest, if you like. And the film concerns 3 British citizens in a plane, which was George Arliss, Alice in a final role, and this other guy. And they're flying well, I'm not really sure where they're flying to. They don't really tell you. But by the way, it's George Arliss is this, the Major, I think. Is he the Major? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, there's the Major. Alice is playing his estranged wife. And there's the pilot, Dr. Traherne. and they end up having a crash land in the Himalayas, which happens to be in this tiny realm of Rukh, somewhere in the Himalaya mountains, and it's ruled by a Raja. Now the Raja welcomes them. You know, they survived the crash, obviously, otherwise it'd be a bloody short film, wouldn't it? They survived the crash, and the Raja is really keen to meet them and welcomes them. What's that on the floor? Oh, I don't know. I'm spending a bit of time out because the wife's still in the bath doing the mum a bit. But unbeknown to them, the Raja has 3 brothers, and the 3 brothers are due to be executed for murder, and it's the British who are going to execute them. So although the Raja is quite pleased to see these people, the citizens of Rukh see this as a bit like an omen. This is how they're going to revenge the execution of the 3 brothers, because they've been delivered 3 British citizens who in turn they can execute. Are you hooked yet? Into a big enough bowl, we're now just going to put those washed little gem leaves. Like I say, traditionally it was romaine lettuce. Okay, and we're then gonna add some salt. Now I'm not using that pink salt. I know it's pink salt, but what I mean is the fine pink salt, because we want a little bit of bite to it. So on that goes, and then I'm just going to toss that around to get that sort of all mixed in, as it were. So here we go anyway. But it turns out the Raja is quite happy that his brother's going to get, because they're threatening essentially the succession of these children when he dies. So he's quite pleased to see that the British are going to sort them out, but he daren't let on that, because if he does that, then obviously his citizens are going to rise up against him because they like the brothers. So they're basically saying when them 3 brothers die, the Brits die. But then of course love interferes. And the Raja falls in love with Lucille, and he says, if you be my wife, I will spare your life. Sod the other 2 blokes, but you will live as my wife. And she says, no way, on your Nelly, ain't happening. So they're still going to be executed. Now the prisoners discover, right, anyway, so there's our salted lettuce leaves, and what we're going to do now is just add some of this dressing. Okay, it may be that we don't want to add it all. Okay, so we're just going to toss some of that in there, and then I'm just going to, I could get my hands in there and do a Jamie, but I'm not going to. I might add a little bit more dressing in a minute. On the other hand, that does seem quite well coated. Anyway, the Brits discover that the Raja has got a telegraph machine. We are talking quite a long time ago. I'm going to add a little bit more of that. I think that might do. Let me just put that lid on there, because then blades are a bit lethal. Okay, and so they think we could get a message out. And it so happens there is a renegade Brit who is the Raja's radio assistant, and they try and convince him to get a message out to get them rescued. So they try bribing him, but then he discovers, of course, that they're not really interested in him. They're doing it to save their own selves. So he betrays them. So at which point, when they realise he's going to betray them, they throw him off the balcony to his death. Ooh, they're not very nice, these Brits, are they? And then the Major says, I know how to operate it anyway. So he's trying to get a message out. The Raja's men and everything are trying to break in to get to him. And just as they do, the Major is mid-transmission. The Raja pulls out a gun, shoots him in the back, kills him. So that leaves the pilot and Lucille, and they're going to be executed. Right, so almost there, and I think the wife is finally ready. By the way, I should point out that this salad is actually for serving 3 to 4 people. All right, but remember, we're greedy bastards. Pardon me, that was the last of the gin. I've got a nice Chablis chilled in the fridge. So we take some of our tossed lettuce. These silicone things are a bit too bloody slippery, and we're just going to lay some of our leaves out onto the plate. Now, as I was saying, so here we have the next day, and this is where the name comes from. It's time for the execution. Oi, you slippery little fucker. So the pilot and Lucille are taken to the Green Goddess Temple for their execution. Once again, the Raja says to Lucille, marry me, be my wife, because I love you dearly, and you shall be spared. And again, she turns him down. But at this point, even though the Major had only got out half a message, the Brits heard. And suddenly, a whole fleet of planes appear over Rook, and the Brits land. I'm going to pick that one up there, put that on there, and march up to the Raja and demand the release of the Brits. And of course, the Raja can't do much about it because he's outnumbered, as it were. And so, in a way, it all ends up happy ever after. Right, so there's my salads plated up. So our final thing is the final accompaniments. You can put it over it, you can put it to one side, doesn't really matter, but we're now just going to add our radish slices. Okay, so half on one and half on the other. Okay. We then going to sprinkle on our toasted pepitas, or pumpkin seeds anyway. Add a little bit of crunch to it. And finally, we add our cheeses. So we take half of that crumbled feta and we put that over it. And then a final little accompaniment will be our Parmesan. So, like I say, the final thing we're going to do is just give it a light dusting with some grated Parmesan. And then there is a finished green goddess salad. So let's have a little taste. Here's a bit of lettuce, pretty much on its own. Let's just try that. A little bit of cheese on it, but it's got dressing on it. The dressing certainly isn't overpowering. I wouldn't say I get the lemon at all. I don't know. Really, at the end of the day, it's a nice, refreshing, crunchy salad. There you go. Perhaps not quite the same impact my last summer salad I made the other week, but certainly not unpleasant. Certainly a nice refreshing change. I'm getting some of the flavours of the cheese through as well, but there you go. Your green goddess salad, as invented, 1923, Palace Hotel in San Francisco, in homage to the film The Green Goddess. I'm going to go enjoy that now, and I think I'm out in the Chablis.